This is big news, and it tells you a lot that we do not lead with this story. Ron DeSantis suspends his presidential bid and endorses Trump. This happened yesterday afternoon. Ron DeSantis gave a speech where he accidentally quoted Budweiser, thinking he was quoting Winston Churchill, which I see as a perfect example, well, how do I say this? It explains his campaign.
Yeah, it encapsulates the whole thing.
Yeah. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Winston Churchill. No, in fact, that was a Budweiser ad from 1938 talking about fishermen, particularly young men who don't care if the weather is bad. They will try anyway. And, well, Ron, sure. When we played the video in the car, we were driving back home, someone actually asked if it was AI.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You thought it was AI?
Yeah, because he looked so good.
He was smiling.
I mean, he
looks relieved.
It was the best I've seen him look in months. He looked like, wow.
So happy.
I'm so glad that this is over.
He opens with, I'm in Florida, and he's like happy about it. He looks like he's about to cry
it's
from
like hitting
relief.
yourself in the head with a hammer. It hurts so much when you stop. He always lacked a rationale for his candidacy. What was the rationale for his candidacy? If you wanted the America First candidate, we already had that person. That was Donald Trump. If you have a choice of seeing the Beatles or seeing a Beatles tribute band, which one are you going to see? You're going to go see the Beatles, right? So he never had a rationale for his candidacy other than saying, well, something might happen to Trump, but that something hasn't happened, or to the extent that it has happened, it's actually turbocharged his campaign. So he had one foot in the America First camp, one foot in the Republican establishment camp, but he could never make a case why him, other than, well, Trump might be going to jail, that's why it should be me. And that Trump is beloved. He's unlike any political figure we've seen in the history of the country.
Let me play a short little snippet from this DeSantis speech.
Our first snowman in New Hampshire. They are one of the reasons we fight so hard for what we believe in. Winston Churchill once remarked that success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. While this campaign has ended, the mission continues. Down here in Florida, we will continue to show the country how to lead. Thank you, and God bless.
So that was the end, of course, where he quoted Budweiser, thinking it was Winston Churchill. But I agree. He seems happier than I've seen him in a long time. I got to be honest, when I saw this, I thought it was AI. I thought it was a deep fake AI generated speech. And some people point out that he flubs a word halfway through the speech. And I'm like, that's actually, to me, more indicative of it being AI, of it being like auto generated. All you have to do to make this these days, it's real easy, is Ron could stand up, say 3 sentences. He could walk up and just go, "How now, brown cow? The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog." Leave, and then they can make him say anything they want. I am not actually suggesting that's what they did. It's just, I mean, you thought the same thing?
He talks like this, and then he'll go on and say another sentence, and then he'll continue like this. It felt very robotic. And he was smiling.
I think, was that not the problem of his entire candidacy? The likability is a crucial factor in politics. And running for governor is not the same as running for president. Running for governor, you can keep the media at bay. You don't have to give that many interviews. You can control access to yourself. Much tougher to do that when you're running for president. And in this particular case, this guy spent $300 million. And he dropped out of New Hampshire because he had dropped below 5% of the vote. And that was after squeezing out a very narrow but distant second place finish in Iowa. And he has long-term problems now in Florida, where he's hurt his standing very badly.
But what the hell's Nikki Haley doing?
She's hanging on to try to be vice president, is what she's doing. Well, I couldn't agree more, but she is the epitome of the Bush-Cheney, when's the next foreign war wing of the Republican Party. And they, I think, would try to force her on the ticket. I think she's going to get beat tomorrow in New Hampshire by, 18, 19, 20 points. And then we head to her home state, where I think she's going to get shellacked. It's not incidental that the governor of South Carolina, Henry McMaster, very good guy, the lieutenant governor, most members of his cabinet, most of the leaders, all the leaders of their legislature were all in New Hampshire yesterday and today campaigning against Nikki Haley.
Vivek did it right. Vivek campaigned for the most part praising Donald Trump's record, and he actually did not give a good reason for the longest time as to why he was even running. He ran, he said, we're going to do these things. And I was like, these are good things. He defended Donald Trump when bad things happened. And then only towards the end, he said, I'm running because I think the deep state will stop at nothing to remove Donald Trump. And if that's the case, the last thing we want is Nikki Haley to be the only one on the ticket. And I said, that's actually a really good point. I'll accept that. But I'll tell you this, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And only in that scenario does that make sense. And then when he loses Iowa, he drops out, praises Donald Trump, endorses Donald Trump, and campaigns for him. And I'm like, that's how you get out of this. He made a name for himself from 0 to 8%. Wonderful job. And now he's launched a budding career. Ron DeSantis went from the shining star of MAGA to the Oscar the Grouch living in a trash can. And it is a remarkable feat, to be honest.
Well, it's because it denies his origins. Look, Ron DeSantis was a completely unknown, obscure congressman with a bad haircut and a bad suit who was struggling in single digits in a race for governor. He was lifted out of political obscurity by Donald Trump. 62 Republican county chairmen, the entire Republican state apparatus, every elected Republican in the Florida legislature, every member of the congressional delegation who's a Republican except for Matt Gaetz had endorsed Adam Putnam. So Ron DeSantis owed his nomination to Donald Trump, and then Trump changed his schedule in the last 3 weeks of the 2018 campaign to return to Florida 3 times and literally drag him over the finish line.
Wow.
I didn't think that voters cared about this. You know what? I was wrong. Voters do care about this. They care about loyalty. They care about gratitude. Ron was 42 years old. He couldn't have waited. Now, I think the flaws in his candidacy would have shown up in 2028 anyway, but he's not a viable candidate for 2028 now.
He could have tried to play it more like Vivek did, which would have required him to, one, not attack Donald Trump in these ridiculous ways, and then he actually would have had to have bowed out. It would have been a weird campaign from the get-go, considering how long people were considering him. He was the favorite in the betting odds in January of 2023.
Yeah, leading in the polls. He was leading in the polls.
Talk about throwing that all in the garbage, and for what? But I do want to stress, it was people like me and many others. We were like, we like Ron, but his campaign is being run by children. And whenever we would say something like, guys, you need to fix this, what would be the response of his campaign? And I'm not talking about his fans. I'm talking about quite literally his staff to attack potential allies and insult them.
It was unusual. I mean, I think, and maybe you have a better insight into this, but so much of the DeSantis campaign to me seemed like it was that pressure that we heard. I kept hearing this over and over again. Well, he has to run now because if he waits, you have to strike while the iron is hot. If he waits, his name will lose momentum and it'll fall off, and he can never have any big opportunities, which seemed counterintuitive to me, given that Trump had really boosted his career. If he had been loyal, which is what you hear over and over again when Trump supporters are interviewed by the New York Times, by anyone else, they say, I've been voting for Trump for this long and I know that he can do good things and I want to stick with him. They value loyalty, and it seems like that pressure to move his political career forward went against this obvious call to loyalty.
Well, he's got 2 more years as governor, which he could have distinguished himself. If he had gone out and campaigned hard for Donald Trump, he could have earned his support. He could have been next in line. Now he's got a gigantic problem. We have a term limitation of 2 years. There's a Senate seat up in 2028, but how does he raise the money? What fulcrum does he have to raise the money? He's going to have a recalcitrant legislature now because they resent the fact that he's been missing. We have an insurance crisis. We have a utility rate crisis. We have a fentanyl crisis. Where's Ron? Ron's nowhere to be found.
You know what this is? This is Donald Trump is the lead singer in a rock band charting every week with a new single. He finds this guy to play bass. The bass player is standing on stage thinking like, man, they love me. I should start my own band. So he quits to start his own band, and everyone's like, whatever happened to that guy?
Yep.
That's where he's headed. Wild.
It's weird.
He struck while the iron was warm.
He miscalculated the temperature here. But that's sad.
It's no secret that I've been a critic of his wife. I think she drove this decision. I think she was tremendously ambitious and she misread the moment. It was not his time. He had plenty of time.
So can he
Yeah.
recover from this? Like, does he have a place moving forward in the America First MAGA movement, or is he sort of
It's going to be
separated?
very much up to him. But I mean, look, he had a super majority in the legislature. Let's recognize he paid $1 million, essentially a bribe to the Speaker of the House. It's a legal bribe because he gives $1 million to his political action committee. And they changed the state law so that only one person who holds state office can run for federal office without giving up their state office. So if I was in the state house and I wanted to run for Congress, I have to resign, but not Ron DeSantis. He can run for president while remaining governor of Florida, changing the law just for him. It's a bad idea to begin with.
Oh yeah, he went to Iowa during a state of emergency in Florida. That was the last nail in the coffin for me. I had been defending like, look, well, we know he's good on policy. He did well in Florida, but his campaign's bad. And then I found out he's in Iowa. It was a blizzard. Were you in Iowa by chance?
No, I was not, but I remember it well.
We were in Iowa, minus 15 degrees or whatever. Stores are all closed, heavy snow, and Ron's like, I should be here instead of my home state, which is under a state of emergency that he declared. He flies in, declares, flies out. I was like, wow, that's dereliction of duty.
I thought it was weird when he went to Japan and was pretending that he wasn't about to campaign.
Oh,
He
yeah.
there were lots of things that sort of felt disingenuous. And I'm not here to be. I mean, I'm not a huge. There were some things about his campaign, like some of his immigration stuff, that I thought was interesting. Ultimately, he never was who I was going to vote for. But I think what's worse is that we're sort of stealing our future. I think ultimately 4 more years of Trump, and then who comes after that? There has to be a legacy of people to fill these seats when people are term limited and can't move on.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.